Well, well. Clemson Tiger fans, college football fans, welcome back to another episode of the All In Show here on the Clemson Voice of College Football channel. As you might have noticed, I'm not the normal face that you see when this show starts. But don't worry, Tiger Paul Craven is here. He is in the back. He's had some technical difficulties this today, so I'm the one running the show, but it's still going to be just like normal. And I'm going to add him in a second. But before we get into that, spring game is here. I know you guys have been waiting, dying. We all have. It's been a really, really long off season, but the spring game is always one of the most anticipated parts of the spring. So I'm really glad that we're finally here, and it should be a good one. We've got a loaded show. We're going to talk a lot about the spring game. It's probably going to take up the majority of the show. So we'll be taking your comments and questions, all of that, and we'll be kind of parsing everything out and trying to speculate on what we might expect on Saturday. So really excited to get into that. But if you haven't already, please hit that like button. Really helps the show, keeps this show going, and helps us get our content out to new viewers. So please do that. Make sure you check the description as well. There's tons of links. Obviously, Clemson has, I'm sorry, not Clemson. Mark has a merch site now. So make sure you guys check that out. Get you guys some sweet Voice of College Football merch, and make sure that you support the channel that way. He's also used his Amazon link, all of that in the description. And consider joining Patreon. I am a member. It's a really, really good time. Really, really great content. A lot of perks. You get access to the Discord. Get access to betting picks. You get access to exclusive live streams. So make sure that you guys are tuning in and checking that out as well, if you so desire. But without further ado, I'm going to add my man, the one that's normally the one adding me, Mr. Tiger Paul Craven. What's going on, man?
Yo, what's up, everybody?
You sound good. You sound good. I was worried that, with the technical difficulties that you were having earlier today, it was going to be kind of crazy, but you look good. Honestly, you probably could have ran it, but it is what it is. We're already here now.
Yeah, maybe. I'll let you continue to run the show for tonight. Absolutely. But I'm just happy to be here, guys. I'm so ecstatic that the spring game is finally here. Been looking forward to this since the end of last season, since the Orange Bowl, right? Since, we signed our recruiting class, since we started talking about the early enrollees, the freshmen of this class and all of that kind of stuff, man. I appreciate you taking lead on the show tonight. I really do. For a backstory for everybody here in the live chat, not that you guys care, but there was a ton of technical difficulties when it came to the All In show tonight, which is, I believe, the 15th episode of the All In show. So shout out to me and Jordan Bowman for keeping this show running. Shout out to our fans, 19 of you guys in the live chat right now. We appreciate you guys getting in here. We appreciate every time we get on here. You guys are faithful. You watch, you comment, you interact with us. But my internet was down for a good portion of today. And I wasn't sure that we would be able to run the show tonight. So Jordan Bowman stepped up like the great co-host that he is, he took the lead tonight and he made it happen for you guys. So shout out to Jordan Bowman, and the show must go on, and never fear, Tiger Paul Craven's here. Okay, I may have technical difficulties, but somehow we always figure it out, Jordan. We always figure it out.
Hey, and we were on time this week.
I know, right? Check that out, man. We went
at 9 o'clock.
We went live at 9 o'clock. You took it over, man. I showed up, just in the nick of time from my daughter's softball practice. So it's a good night. to be a Clemson Tiger, and it's a great night to be a part of the Mark Rogers brand, the voice of college football, here on the Clemson channel, and to get to chop it up about the upcoming Clemson spring game this Saturday, man. I'm excited, man. I'm ready to roll.
Same. I will be in attendance for this game. We haven't really talked too much about it, but we've kind of chatted back and forth about possibly doing a post spring game live show. So that has not been solidified yet, but make sure you guys have your notifications on for this channel. Make sure you hit that little bell, because that way it lets you know every time we go live. So if
Absolutely.
we do end up going live, post spring game, YouTube will let you guys know, and we can chop it up over there. So make sure you guys do that as well. But let's say we get into it, man. There's a lot to talk about. This is probably one of the most anticipated spring games, I think, in quite some time.
Oh yeah.
And it's funny because the past couple of seasons have been really rough, and been a lot of question marks, a lot of issues. But if you go back to leading up to these past two spring games, there was a lot of optimism. You go back to 2021, DJ was taking on the full-time starting role. There was a lot of intrigue with Trevor Lawrence and Travis Etienne moving on, and some of the other guys, Amari Rogers, Cornell Powell, also going off to the league. There was a lot of questions, but there was a lot of excitement considering what DJ looked like in his few starts. It was a couple of starts in 2020.
That feels like so long ago, doesn't it?
It does, man. It really does. I don't remember the final score of that spring game, but I remember it was a stinker. It was a boring game.
Yeah.
Really, the last two have been. So,
right. Yeah.
I think Clemson fans are really looking for a kind of a change of pace, and we're going to talk a lot about what the expectations are and what we're going to be looking for in this game. But it's just nice to hit the reset button. What do you think? Like, with Garrett Riley coming in, you have a new starter at quarterback in Cade Klubnik. You got some new pieces, some pieces that shined, towards the end of last season that have kind of gotten a lot of traction in the offseason. And you've also got, some injuries. And so you're unfortunately, so you're going to see some guys that you're not really as familiar with. You're going to see a lot more young guys getting in and playing. So what do you think about the anticipation of this spring game and what it means for the fan base?
Yeah, absolutely, man. And you make a good point. I think this is one of the most anticipated spring games in the nation this coming, this spring, right? There's a lot of anticipation coming into spring for Clemson. You mentioned all the injuries that we currently have on this team. A lot of them are kind of hangover injuries, if you will, from the season. Guys that had to have surgery following the bowl game, guys that had surgery before the bowl game, guys that are just kind of trying to get healthy. So one of the good things about that is, spring is for the young guys. And a lot of our early enrollees, which was pretty much half of our class, right, was early enrollees. So they've gotten a ton of work. You think about a Noble Johnson. You think about a Peter Woods that has been talked about a ton by the coaching staff, guys that have gotten so many reps that maybe they wouldn't have gotten had we had the full roster together without all of the injuries, right? So I think there's a lot of anticipation coming for Clemson this spring. One, it's because Clemson's offense has been down for the past two seasons. We don't shy away from it on this channel. We've talked about it in length, going back to right before, the last season that Tony Elliott spent at Clemson before he went on to be Virginia's head football coach, right? And then the hiring of Brandon Streeter. A lot of Clemson fans weren't, exactly excited about Brandon Streeter taking over the reins, and it proved to be, just that, a one-year deal that it didn't exactly work out. Was there some improvement in the Clemson offense last season? Sure. But was it enough of a marked improvement to move forward with? Obviously not, because Dabo Swinney chose to make the change. And look, let's not pretend like we thought that Dabo Swinney was going to make a change at the end of last season. You and me both. Everybody can go back into multiple videos on this channel of me and you talking and saying we thought there needed to be a change, but we didn't think that a change would happen. But Dabo Swinney, like the visionary that he is, like the guy that built Clemson into what they are, he looked at it and he was like, you know what? I need to make a change. He went out and got probably the best hire of the offseason in all of college football. The Broyles Award winner in Garrett Riley, a guy that has had an explosive offense for several seasons. Everybody knows what he did with TCU last season, although, they got completely destroyed against Georgia in the national championship game. Let's not rehash that game at all. That was a terrible game. But there's a lot of excitement from Clemson fans heading into this spring. Now, I think we'll get more into it as this episode goes on about kind of curbing some of that excitement. It is a spring game. Every spring game, they're not going to throw the full offense out there. There are injuries. There are people, they're not hitting the quarterbacks. There are limitations. It's not a real game. But I think we can hope for some production from the offense in this spring game. I think we should hope for some production from this offense in the spring game, at least to the point of looking and seeing, some progress and like, hey, you see that play? Yep. That's something we can build on. Again, it is the spring game, so you can't take too much away from you. Like, you never want to be too high or too low heading out of the spring game, right? And then another thing for me is this has kind of been a weird spring for Clemson, right? We talked about all of the injuries, that goes without saying. But, there's been kind of two big breaks in Clemson spring practice. You had, they started spring practice and then they had spring break, right? And then they got back to spring practice, and then kind of Easter fell at a weird point in this season. Like, Clemson would have had their spring game last weekend, but because of how Easter fell, they kind of moved it forward to this coming weekend, and that created kind of a second lull in spring practice that I think they picked up on Wednesday. They had kind of like a walkthrough type deal on Wednesday, and then they're going to culminate, obviously, with the spring game on Saturday. But it is kind of a unique spring for Clemson in that way.
Absolutely. So I want to talk about, before we dive into the players, I do want to discuss the format, because this has been an interesting development this past weekend. This past week, the format for this game is going to be a little bit different. Traditionally, Clemson in these spring games has always tried to split the teams up as evenly as possible, try to create the most balanced competition as possible. And in a way that hasn't changed, but now it's, instead of, just picking a guy from the first team here, or a guy from the second team here, or a guy from the third team another place. Instead, you're going to have the entire first team offense paired with the second team defense. And then on the other side, you're going to have the second team offense paired with the first team defense. So that way,
there you go.
The first team offense is going up against the first team defense. Second team offense is going up against the second team defense. So the teams are still even, but they're split, into first team, second team, and they want their best on their best, and then the second team on the second team. So I mean, what do you think about this? Because I think it was a great change.
So
it's cool.
Yeah, so it's kind of a change from what Clemson traditionally does in the spring. So anybody that's been watching Clemson out there for any length of time knows that Clemson runs their spring game unlike pretty much anyone in college football, as far as I know. Okay, what Clemson traditionally does is they split the team completely even. Dabo selects 2 head coaches. They have kind of a draft, if you will, and they split the team as even as possible, and they play as real of a game as possible. And what Jordan's talking about is we've kind of evolved this year, and I think it has a lot to do with Clemson's struggles the past couple seasons. And I think Dabo sees that, and I think Dabo really wants a competitive spring game, which is why the first team offense will go against the first team defense, and the second team offense will go against the second team defense. And I think that's really important because we really need some competitive spirit around this Clemson team. There has been some lulls, not just on, like, look, I know we have beat up the offense as Clemson fans for the past 2 seasons. But last season, we don't talk about it as much, but last season was kind of a disappointment on the defensive side of the ball with the amount of talent that Clemson had. I mean, you look at the guys that are slotted to be selected in the first round of this year's draft, right? We should have had a better defense last season, but we didn't. Okay, so I think I'm excited about the spring game because I feel like they're setting it up to be a really competitive game. Now, I'm not saying it's going to be, like watching, a game in the fall on Saturday against another team with different uniforms. Don't mistake it at all. Don't take too much out of the spring game. But I do think there's something to be said about kind of the competitive balance that Dabo Swinney is choosing to do this spring game. And he's talked a lot about in the media, and he's kind of challenged the fans, if you will, to be like, hey, we need a game atmosphere in Death Valley. We need this to be as rocking as we possibly can for a spring game. He's calling for, 60+ thousand fans at the spring game, which would be absolutely amazing. I hope it happens. So he's kind of really setting it up and pleading to the fans to be like, hey, we need to get these guys some game experience as much as we can in a spring game, right? And I think that's got a lot to do with some of the young guys that have been getting a lot of reps this spring.
Absolutely. And, on the competition front, I think that's something that this team these past couple of seasons has really missed. And I think last offseason was especially notable because, like you said, the defense did not live up to expectations. Was it a bad unit? No, they were still, top 25, top 30 in most categories. They were, ton of sacks, ton of tackles for loss. They were still a really good defense. But, prior to the season, considering everything that Clemson had returned and just the pieces they were going to get back, you had, Xavier, you were hoping that Xavier Thomas and Miles Murphy and Brian Brzee and KJ Henry and all of those guys, Ruka Rowe, Tyler Davis. I think I already said Taylor Davis, but I'm just
no, you're good. You're good.
But you expected those guys to really, anchor that unit. You thought you had a really good group of linebackers, which you did. And you thought, well, the secondary has some question marks, has some youth there, but the defense as a unit is going to be strong enough that they'll be able to make mistakes and they'll be able to learn, and this defense will still be one of the best in the country. And it really didn't happen that way. And I think I think what possibly hurt Clemson last year, and I'd be really interested. I wish I could interview some of the coaches and kind of get their thoughts on how they prepared prior to last season. But I kind of think that since when you're in the offseason, the only competition you're going up against is the guys on your team. So defensively, you're going up against the Clemson offense, which we know, as we all know, was not very good last year.
No.
And part of me thinks that it led to the Clemson defense thinking they were better than what they actually were. And I think that hurt this team a lot. And I don't think they came into the season with the right mindset. They kind of felt like it was just, as good as the 2021 defense was, they thought they were just going to carry that over into
Right.
2022, and it didn't happen that way. And I think part of that was unfortunately practicing against our offense. And it's they didn't really say it a bunch, but they beat up on the Clemson offense a lot in the offseason. And and instead of thinking, oh well, that probably because the offense isn't very good, it was like, we're just that good, and it just didn't turn out that way. So I think the biggest thing, now with a refresh on offense, um, there's I think that the Clemson defense has to be on their toes more. They have to actually prepare. That it's not, they're not going up against the same offense they've been practicing against since they were freshmen. So they're not picking up on everything. And because you go against the same playbook over and over, you're going to start picking up on stuff, and you start recognizing things, and you're more likely to make plays. But now you have a refresh on the offensive side of the ball, new scheme, new looks that you have to prepare for, and I think this defense definitely needs that. So, really excited for this kind of that. I think the change on offense allows the defense also to kind of get a refresh in mindset. And I think the way this spring game is formatted, I think is going to be really, really conducive to that as well.
Yeah, that's interesting. Like I don't think I've thought about it quite like you just articulated, which is, pretty awesome. Like I do now that you say that, I do kind of agree with that. Now the defense is kind of off balance. Clemson has run pretty much a variation of the same offense since Chad Morris.
Yeah.
And that goes all the way back to 2011 for Clemson. So, they've run somewhat of a variation of the same offense since 2011. And now we're getting a real wholesale change on the offensive side of the ball. A completely new scheme, a complete new philosophy. Everything is changing. Terminology is changing. The way we approach the game is changing. You hear the coaches talk and they talk about, yes, it's a lot of the same concepts. Obviously, everybody in the country runs basically the same core concepts, right? But I think Garrett Riley's really his approach to the game and how he calls plays and how he schemes his receivers and his offensive personnel, specifically his skill players and his playmakers open, is going to be obviously a challenge for our defense. What was one of our weaknesses on the defense last season, Jordan?
The secondary.
Our secondary. There you go. So I think a Garrett Riley offense in practice can absolutely challenge that secondary. And that's one of the things that, I kind of want to, I'm kind of excited to see about the spring game, right? How does this secondary look with this new offensive scheme, right? This scheme that is, from what they tell us, is going to attack the middle. They're going to put our skill players and our guys in the most advantageous positions in order to make plays. So how does our defense adjust to that? How do our cornerbacks, how do our safeties, how are our linebackers working in space? We know the kind of guys that we have, but how does that defensive scheme measure up? And, I think there's a lot to be said about kind of realigning the competitive balance when it comes to Clemson football, because for a long time at Clemson, there was a competitive balance, right? There was a really dynamic offense for a lot of years, paired with a really dynamic defense run by Brent Venables, right, on the other side of the ball. And, much like they say in sports all the time, iron sharpens iron, right?
Yep.
Good sharpens good, one versus one. These guys going head to head. We heard about it, for a long time in Clemson. Practices getting heated, DBs and wide receivers going at it in practice, linebackers and offensive linemen going at it in practice. We heard those stories, and it's kind of subsided the past, 2 seasons with Clemson football. And I really look forward to maybe kind of a restoration of that competitive balance when it comes to the offense and defense really challenging each other, right? Because I 100% believe that we have the athletes necessary on both sides of the ball in order to compete for a national championship. I do. If you look at Clemson's recruiting, if you look at the amount of 4- and 5-star individuals that Clemson signs every single year and the quality of the roster that is at Clemson, it's a team that at least going into a season has a shot. Not that they'll win it, not that every single year they're going to knock down everybody in college football, but it's a quality enough roster that you have a shot. And that's all you can really hope for, right?
100%. Well, let's actually dive into the rosters. Clemson has not, unfortunately, released a spring game roster. Obviously, the format is we have two of our position coaches, CJ Spiller and Nick Eason. They will be the head coaches for the orange and white teams in this game. We don't exactly know, what each team is going to look like. We just know first team offense, second team defense. Second team defense second team offense, first team defense. But we don't really know the actual players that are going to be on this roster. So we're going to have to do some projecting. And so
there we go. Yep.
We're going to kind of take our best guess at what the first team offense. Well, and obviously there's some obvious positions and obvious first and second team guys, but the position groups that are most in question. And I want to start with the wide receiver room.
Okay.
Because I think that's the room that has a lot of has probably the most movement, the most dynamicism, whatever you want to call it, the most fluidity.
Yeah, that's probably the biggest question mark headed in the spring for the Clemson offense, right? Is the wide receiver group. So, absolutely, that's a great place to start.
What do you think? So let's kind of we're just going to say 11 personnel, so 3 wide receivers on the field.
Mm-hmm.
Who do you think is the first team offense or the first team wide receivers?
I would think that the first team wide receivers. We're talking about guys that are going to play, right?
Yeah. Obviously, we're excluding the guys that are injured and all of that. So what is it going to look like on Saturday? The guys that we know are going to play.
Man, I'm struggling to remember who's going to be out for this game. So I think it will be obviously Antonio Williams will be a part of that starting group. Is Bo Collins playing?
I believe he is.
Okay, so Bo Collins, Antonio Williams, and I would assume it would be Cole Turner.
See, I
what do you think? You agree?
I'm with you on two out of 3.
Okay, all right, cool.
But something tells me they're not going to put Antonio Williams and Cole Turner together because they're both kind of slot guys. I mean, they both can play all over the place.
I think I have an idea who you're going to say, and I'm pretty excited about it. Go ahead.
You probably know.
Yeah.
I'm going to go Adam Randall. I think Adam instead of Cole Turner. I think Adam Randall is going to be there as that true outside guy, the true X. And so Adam Randall, Antonio Williams, and Bo Collins. I think that's going to be your 3.
I just want people to understand. With the injuries, still how dynamic those 3 wide receivers are.
Yeah.
I understand. Okay. Clemson has struggled immensely in the wide receiver group for the past 2 seasons, without doubt. And you can blame injuries, you can blame coaching, it doesn't matter. They have struggled. But I mean, when I hear those 2 names, and I've seen those guys, and I know, their potential and what they can do on the field, I mean, those are 3 dudes, man. Like, I mean, that's pretty impressive. I will say that's pretty impressive.
Yeah, it's going to be really interesting to see how this looks, because there's so many moving pieces and you guys with room to move up that we haven't really seen much of, in their times at Clemson. I mean, you think of a guy like Troy Stellato, really pretty highly rated guy that came into Clemson, highly touted, and has just really hardly seen the field due to injury. So
yeah, unfortunately, a guy like that just has not been able to get healthy for whatever reason. And you would and the thing about guys like that, like talking about Troy Stellato, right? Clemson fans have been clamoring for a couple seasons now, right? Where's Troy Stellato? When's his breakout, right? Because he was so highly touted coming in, he just hasn't been able to get healthy. But the beauty of guys like that is, like, if they ever do get healthy, like, it's gonna be, they're gonna become a problem on the field if they live up to the potential that they came in with. So there is that piece as well.
And we're going to need them to step up and kind of grow into that.
100%.
So we agree on 2 out of 3. It'll be really interesting to see what that looks like. Obviously, we're not there in practice every day. We don't know who's shining. We know Antonio Williams is really good, and then past that,
yeah,
we're not
no
really
doubts about Antonio Williams.
You're right.
And that's about where it ends.
You could sell me on Bo Collins, because when he's played, he's been
no
starter.
I would say Bo Collins is a close second to a guaranteed consistent receiver in Clemson's wide receiver room. But it's like those two and then question marks after that. So we'll
hoping to see some plays. Hoping to see some plays.
They got to prove it on the field. Hey, there's nothing but opportunity in that room, and that should produce the best play, right? Because nobody, like, there's no one in that room right now that should feel like, if I produce and if I do the things that necessary, I can get on the field, right? There's not a Mike Williams or a T. Higgins or a Justin Ross in front of you where you're like, bruh, like, I'm not getting on the field. There ain't no way, right? Those dudes aren't in front of you right now. So Clemson's wide receiver room is literally wide open. Anyone can step up and start producing, and you're going to become that guy. So that should be encouraging for those guys in that room, and that should make them want to work really hard this spring and then over the summer heading into fall camp.
Okay, well, it turns out I'm gonna have to change my starting wide receiver group, because
what happened? Who's not playing?
So I had to make sure and double check. So Bo Collins and Adam Randall are actually not playing. So I'm gonna have to change that.
Well, let's blow up our entire roster.
Yeah,
already.
We
just started, and our roster's already done.
Yeah. So, so that throws a monkey wrench in it. So I guess my first team, Antonio Williams, obviously.
100%.
I'm gonna go. I guess it'll be Antonio Williams, Cole Turner, and then I don't know. Will it be a Will? Will Taylor is not playing either.
Is it going to be what's his name?
Noble Johnson.
Is he going to be first team?
He might. I'm not sure. He might.
I think.
It's so frustrating doing this when you don't have a roster, and I was hoping by the time this show came around, since it's 2 days before the spring game, we would actually have a list of guys and we would know what to expect. But unfortunately, that's not the case.
That's what I was kind of looking forward to, is like me and you kind of going down the spring roster and kind of like just talking about it, right? That would have been a really cool show. But
Jeremiah said Hamp Green. And look, hey, Hamp Green is going to play. I think he might
look
be
here.
second team.
Hey, look here, man. Look. Hey, that wide receiver room right now is clearly lean. If you got Adam Randall out, if you got Bo Collins out, I mean, you got look, it's lean. It's lean in the wide. Everybody's playing in the spring game. Apparently, maybe there is no first and second team. It's just dudes, right?
Yeah.
But honestly, I think Noble Johnson might be first team.
Yeah.
I know he's gotten a ton of reps this spring. I know he's a guy that a lot of the coaches have been talking about. A guy that has kind of impressed. He's kind of a, what is he? Was he like 6'3", 205, something like that?
Yeah. Big body, looks the
big,
part. Really physically impressive.
Big body guy. Looks physically ready coming out of high school, early enrollee. He's kind of learning with the rest of the group. So that's really a guy in the wide receiver room. If we're talking about, heading into the fall, that's a guy that can impact this Clemson roster for real. Like,
and he supposedly, I mean, with the frame and size, he apparently he has some pretty good speed. I mean, he claims he ran a 4.4, at some mid 4.4. So that, I mean, that would be a guy at his size with that kind of speed is a really good, it's really good combo. So,
hey, that's deadly. That's deadly. A guy that size with that speed, man. Like, look, look. Again, we need guys to step up in the wide receiver room, and if it's a freshman like Noble Johnson, hey, so be it, man. I will welcome it, as long as they're catching, passing, and scoring touchdowns. Like, who cares, right? Who cares who it is?
So our consensus first team wide receivers for the spring game: Antonio Williams, Cole Turner, Noble Johnson.
I would say Noble Johnson. Yeah.
Yeah. That's our best guess,
because that's kind of your big body guy, and I feel like he's probably gotten majority of the reps this spring just because of injuries. So yeah.
All right. Let's go to probably the second most important. Well, in the second, biggest question mark on this offense, the offensive line. So first team offensive line, we know that we have some guys with injury, but we more or less, I think we kind of know what it's going to look like. It's just going to be where are they going to start? We kind of know where we think, at least most of the guys, we know who's going to play and who's going to be in that first team, but what positions are you going to be in? So first team offensive line, you can start from wherever, left tackle, center, whatever you want to do. Who's going to trot out there with the first team offense?
Ooh. So I was, let's see. Tristan Lay, right? Man, I'm trying to hold on. I'm trying to
keep in mind Walker Parks and Marcus Tate are both out.
Okay. So Walker Parks and Marcus Tate out. So Tristan Lay, my buddy, right tackle. Name's escaping me right now. Blake Miller. Good Lord. Why are all these names escaping me right now? Hold on. Give me 1 second.
Jeremiah. I'm not sure. I mean, I think they're kind of working him, Marcus Tate back in. So I would be really surprised if we saw him trot out there.
Really?
On the first team.
Okay.
But we need him back in a bad way. We need him back in a bad way because he's been, he offers that tackle and guard versatility.
So,
has really stepped up the past couple of seasons. I remember Marcus Tate when he started at left guard, and that 2021 season opener against Georgia. Man, he looked lost. I'm sure you guys remember that. That's a game that I don't like to look back on, but it's really impressive to see how far he's come. Marcus Tate, that is, and I think he's developed into a really nice guard. But he's also got the versatility, the positional versatility to play tackle, left tackle if Clemson needs him to. But ideally, you want Tristan Lay in that spot, and I think you'll see Tristan Lay in that spot. Maybe Tristan Lay's at, who knows? Maybe Blake Miller, comes out at left tackle and Tristan Lay's at right tackle. But
I think it'll be opposite. I think Blake Miller will be right tackle. I think Tristan Lay is going to start at left tackle.
Well, that's what I think too. But I'm just saying they cross train him.
They could flip flop him.
And Blake Miller has been he's practiced at left tackle before, so I think you never know.
I think Will Putnam at center. Now here's a guy I've heard a lot about this spring, Harris Sewell. I think that's a guy. He may not be first team, but I think that's a guy that we're going to see a lot in the spring game.
I think he might be first team.
He might be first
at least in
team.
the spring game, and I think there's a good chance that he plays.
Let's see. Who else do I have? I got one more position in the first team.
Yeah, one of the guard spots.
Let's see. Who am I going to go? Dietrich Pennington, maybe.
First team, I don't see it.
You don't think so?
No, from what I've read and from what's been said about him, he still has to commit to being consistent. He was really overweight last season, and he's kind of working back into shape. And
he's such a you see that dude?
He's good.
He's
so good. Like
when you look at him, he's just like he's a guard, dude.
He could move some people. He could.
Could you imagine like a guy like that committed with like Will Shipley and Phil Maffa running behind him?
Oh Lord!
Oh my goodness. Maybe that's just wishful thinking that he'll get his stuff.
I really hope. I hope for the life of me. I've been waiting to see Dietrich Pennington for. I think he's probably played like 20 snaps the past 2 seasons.
I was so excited when Clemson got him though. It was just. I don't know, man. I'm holding out hope for my boy Dietrich Pennington. He's gonna figure it out. I'm gonna stay with that. Dietrich Pennington's gonna figure it out before he leaves Clemson.
I hope so too. So yeah, my group is pretty much the same. I do think it's going to be Tristan Lay at left tackle. I think you're going to see. I think at left guard, I think you're going to see Mitchell Mays. He's played a lot there. I assume I know he had dealt with injury a little bit this spring, but I assume he's playing. I haven't heard that he won't be playing, so I expect Mitchell Mays to go out there.
I think he just had like a rolled ankle or something like that. Yeah. He kind of pushed past it. I don't think it was a big deal.
Right. So, and then at center, I think it's going to be Will Putnam. First time in a while, Clemson has had a returning starter at center, so that's great. I think he has a lot of room to improve, but it's just nice to have some continuity at that position. Right guard, I think you will see Harris Sewell, just because of the guys you're missing, Walker Parks and Marcus Tate being out, and Harris Sewell has really impressed this spring. He's a guy that I think is going to contrip early.
He's
in some form or fashion. So
he's a guy that the coaching staff really talked about. Just came in physically ready, to play at this level. So.
And I loved him coming out. He was my favorite of Clemson's 3 offensive line takes this past cycle.
Right.
Yeah, I think Harris Sewell is a guy. He's a dude. He's got the size, the power. He just plays with a mean streak.
He's going to be hard to keep off the field.
Yeah, he's going to be very hard to keep off the field. So I expect to see him in that right guard spot, and then at right tackle, I think you will see Blake Miller and see him continue to take strides. I think we lost. I think we lost Tiger Paul Craig. We were doing so well. We almost hit the 50-minute mark without a buffer, but I'll wait for him to figure that out. But yeah, I think you will see Blake Miller at that right tackle spot. See him continue to make strides. Really developed really well last season. So I expect to see him in that first team offensive line.
Can you hear me?
Yep, I can hear you.
All right, sweet. I don't know what happened. My screen went black for a second. So if you can hear me, then we're good to go.
All right, we're all good. All right, so I think the offensive line and the wide receivers are the ones that we really, on the offensive side of the ball, that we really have some questions about. So
yeah. I don't think we need to hash running back first team, do we?
No, I don't think so. I think you'll see Will Shipley on the first team.
Are you sure? No surprises on the first team running back? No.
Yeah, no. I don't think. No, actually, no. I think Dominique Thomas is going to try out their first team and surprise everybody. No,
Interesting. That's a bold take. I will not follow you on that bold take.
But yeah, I think you'll see Shipley with that first team offense, and then Phil Maffa will be the second team. But they're both first team quality backs for sure.
Yeah, they're basically both first team. But hey, you got to split them up, right? You can't put Will Shipley and Phil Maffa on the same team.
No,
that's just not fair. That's not fair to the defense. And then obviously we know who the first team quarterback is going to be.
Yeah,
I don't think that's a question.
Hunter Helms, yeah, that's not a question. Could you imagine,
bro? Look, bro. Do you know like the national media narrative like that would lose their mind if somebody else ran out there as the first quarterback for Clemson? Oh my goodness!
With that being said, when we talk about the second string offense, that will be a little bit more of an interesting conversation. But
for sure, yeah, who knows?
Okay, so let's kind of talk about the defense, because that's another one that has a lot of fluidity, especially on the defensive line. So I kind of want to dig into that. Obviously, Rukaroro is out. Don't believe he's playing in this game. Who else is out? There's multiple guys out.
Rook's out. Is XT still out?
I know
it came out.
Yeah,
it came out that he was 100%. So I didn't know if that meant that he was going to play in the spring game, or he was just good at, like, I don't know. Maybe we'll just pretend like he is going to play. I guess we'll assume he's going to play because he came out and said he's 100%. So
yeah,
we'll assume that XT is going to play.
Yep. I hope he plays. I hope he plays a little bit. Part of me just wants to say put him in bubble wrap and save him for the fall, because
hey, we got all summer. Let him play.
Yeah.
Let him play.
I don't know, man. I mean, we were so close, and then that fall scrimmage happened.
Man, dude. And that's one of the things is like, Xavier Thomas, he had the foot injury in fall, right? And he had the surgery, and they were like, he came back and they were like, oh, there's no chance of him getting hurt, right? His surgery was 100% successful. There's no chance of him getting hurt. Blase, right? Clearly that wasn't the case, because he got hurt shortly after.
Yeah.
So I get your your pause there with playing him in the spring game.
Yeah,
but
I wanted for the kid so bad. I'm the kid. We're about the same age, so I can't really say that. But
sure you can.
But
we're just a bunch of old guys on here on YouTube talking, right?
Yeah. Still, I want it for him. 6-year guy, really one of the highest rated recruits in his class coming out. Just hasn't been able to stay on the field, and this is kind of his last opportunity. So, just want him to finish strong and have a really strong season and kind of get that draft stock up for when he goes to the league. So
do I, man. I've said it time and time again on this channel. XT is one of my favorite players at Clemson. And I know he has not performed, to the best of his ability for most of his Clemson career. But I just love the dude, man. Like, I love his work ethic. I love his attitude. I love that he's just raw and honest about, his struggles at Clemson and why they've happened and all the stuff that's happened to him. His just perseverance, through adversity. I'm just rooting for the guy. I hope this is XT's like second breakout season, because his first one was his freshman campaign, right?
Yeah.
Everybody remembers that like epic hit on Syracuse's quarterback back in his freshman year, right? So, I'm hoping for a second breakout season. Hopefully he can stay healthy. Hopefully he can have a really productive season and go really high in the draft. That's what I hope for him. So, yeah.
Same. So I think we feel pretty confident XT is going to lock up one of those first team defensive end spots.
Oh, no doubt. No doubt.
I think on the other end, I'm pretty sure it's going to be Justin Maskell. But
if he's healthy, if both XT and Justin Maskell are healthy, those are the first team DNs, right? We know depth is an issue on the defensive end for the defense, but those are definitely the guys that are going to run out there first, in my opinion.
Yeah,
hands down, no question.
Then in the middle, obviously Rook is out, but he would probably be one of those first team defensive tackle spots.
He would be.
I think you'll see Tyler Davis out there. Peyton Page is also out, so you will not see him. So who do you think is going to step up in that role? You think it's going to be DeMonte Capehart? Is it going to be a oh man, I'm blanking.
Trey Williams?
Trey Williams.
Trey Williams is another one.
Is it going to be one of the freshmen? Is it going to be Greg Williams? What do you think?
I would tend to lean.
Caden Story. I completely forgot. We forget about Caden Story. He's chilling in there.
If I'm guessing,
Caden Story.
I'm guessing it's first team will be Tyler Davis and Trey Williams for defensive tackles. That's first team. If I would guess right now, because Trey Williams was a pretty consistent guy for Clemson last season. He was pretty disruptive at the defensive tackle position. And I'm assuming he's had a good spring. Not a guy that you've heard his name called a lot, but at the end of the day, he's been around a while, right? You've heard, kind of a Peter Woods talked about a lot, but I still think Peter Woods is going to be second team. I don't think he wraps up any first team spots, at least for the spring game.
Yeah.
No.
And I think he's going to be, and I don't think he's going to play defensive tackle either. So
no.
I think he's.
Well, you've heard the coaches talk about that. They feel like they can move him anywhere along the defensive line, including defensive end on the edge type of deal. They feel like Peter Woods can play anywhere, which could be very important for Clemson, right? We've talked about our depth issues along the defensive end in particular, along the defensive line. So, we may need Peter Woods to kind of step in and play that role that Christian Wilkins played once upon a time, where he flexed to defensive end and kind of an edge rusher type of deal when Clemson needed it. So it'll be interesting. It'll be interesting for sure. But that would be my two defensive tackles.
I think I would agree. wouldn't surprise me if you saw. Wouldn't surprise me if you saw Peter Woods out there, in one of the
Yeah.
spots. I think Tyler Davis is pretty well established, but um, past that, not really sure. Is it going to
Yeah, I
be?
mean Tyler Davis, 100, like
Yeah,
ain't nobody taking his spot.
yeah.
But
But yeah, I think that makes sense. Demonte Capehart is a guy that really highly touted in the 2020 class. Kind of been waiting on him to
yeah,
break out. I mean, it would. I think it would be a good sign if you saw him out there because he's the one, with that first team because he's kind of one that's just been biding his time and hasn't, played a ton. But I still think he has loads of talent. So I'll be interested to see where he ends up as well. Uh, I didn't even mention Vic Burley. I said in the freshman, but a
yeah,
guy like Vic Burley is there as well. He's a
he is
guy I
there.
think could definitely work his way into some playing time as well. Um, so we'll see.
We will see.
There's just so much that's not clear uh, about what the pecking order is. On both sides of the ball at certain positions. So we're doing our best here to kind of project and kind of see what.
We're just
Uh,
we're throwing stuff against the wall and seeing what sticks at this
yeah.
point.
Yeah.
Uh,
So something tells me we're gonna come back.
shit.
Whenever we do do a show after the spring game and be like, wow, that was not at all what we
we
thought it was going to
we
be.
were completely wrong.
Yeah.
We had no clue what we were talking about.
Yeah. Let's. I think we feel pretty confident about the linebackers.
Yeah, I mean, look,
I think you'll see Jeremiah Trotter. Some combination of Jeremiah Trotter, Barrett Carter, and probably Wade Woodaz. I don't.
absolutely.
I
Those
don't
are
think.
those are the three guys in whatever order, whatever. Look, those are the three guys.
Yeah.
That's first team.
Yep.
No doubt about it.
All right, corner. This one's interesting, especially especially outside because you have some guys that are you have a lot of experience coming back,
You
but you
do.
also have an influx of youth, and there's some guys that have played a lot and are really experienced. There's some guys that are really experienced but haven't played that haven't played a lot due to injury and stuff like that.
Yep.
So what do you think? If we let's just say there's two starting outside corners
Yep.
on the first team. Who do you think those two are going to be?
I'm going Malcolm Green and Nate Wiggins.
Mm,
First team.
Malcolm Green. Okay.
Yep.
He's obviously he's gotten a lot of rave reviews this spring.
He's the veteran. He's kind of the
Been his
veteran of the
best
group.
role.
Yep. He's kind of grown up, I guess, if you will. If you listen to the coaching staff, he's kind of, obviously you mentioned he's had his best spring. He's kind of, really, put the work in, and we all know how, me and you feel about Nate Wiggins last year. He took his lumps like a pro, basically. I mean, this guy grew up on the field in front of our eyes. He didn't shy away from the criticism that he got. He said, I deserved it. And guess what? That'll never happen again. And for the rest of the season, it really didn't happen again. So if I'm choosing right now, that would be my guess. That would be my two, Malcolm Green and Nate Wiggins. What about you?
So I think Nate Wiggins is going to be, definitely going to be one of the starting spots. Is the only question is Sheridan Jones going to play? I know he's been.
That's a good question. I don't know.
See, that's something I don't know either. And there's a lot we don't know. But if Sheridan Jones is playing, I think he'll be out there with the first team because he's kind of he's the guy that's I mean he's another veteran. He's been there longer than Malcolm Green has, and he dealt with injury last season, but he was definitely considered a first team corner. So and he's kind of the leader. So something tells me if he's available, I think you'll see him out there with the first team with Nate Wiggins.
You might be right about that.
Yeah,
You
but
might be
Malcolm
right.
Green absolutely is a guy that wouldn't surprise me. He's had a good spring, and he offers a lot of positional versatility. He can play nickel, he can play outside, and I expect him to be a huge part of the defense when this fall. So uh, wouldn't surprise me at all if we saw Malcolm Green in one of those starting corner spots. All right, let's and finally safety. I think this one's a little interesting because really we only have
Yeah.
two starting safety spots left, but I think there's three guys that we wouldn't really be surprised
Yeah.
we're in that first team. So what do you think is going to be? Um,
So, and this is tough because there really are three guys that could start. Um, man, I'm gonna go. Wow. Okay. I'm gonna go R.J. Mickens and Andrew Makuba
that's
for a bounce back season for our boy Andrew Makuba that had, as we know, a tough season last year, but played out of his natural position, which is safety. So, yeah, I'm going to go R.J. Mickens and Andrew Makuba. But
I am
that's a
in.
tough decision.
It is a tough decision, but I'm in agreement. I do think it'll be. Um, I do think you'll see Andrew Makuba and R.J. Mickens out there, and Jalen Phillips is definitely a guy that would be in close consideration, and wouldn't surprise me if he was there too.
Yeah,
Um,
that's a guy that that's the I was struggling with that, but it's just I think Andrew Makuba and RJ they're just such playmakers, man. They just especially RJ Mickens just seems to have a nose for the football. He's just there when you need a play made. He's just kind of that guy that just finds himself in the positions to make plays. And I really do just think Andrew Makuba's regression last season and his struggles were due to him just playing out of position.
yeah,
You
and he
know,
was playing hurt,
and he
so
was playing hurt, right? And it's just his natural position is safety. That's where he's comfortable. That's where he needs to be. And I really think those are Clemson's two best options. But I mean, look, we got some other guys that can come and fill in. So, but that's a good thing for us. You look. You talk about Chirac Oval last year. I mean, that guy.
yeah, I think the world of that kid. He's going to be special.
He played tough last year. I mean, he got put in some tough positions last season, and he delivered a lot for such a young guy. So, yeah, you talk about a Jalen Phillips, you talk about a Chirac Oval. You got some guys in that safety room that if disaster struck, you know, you've seen some game reps from these guys that they can step up and do what they need to do. So,
100%. And that's something that I don't think we've talked about enough is how much experience this secondary is actually bringing back. I think
yeah,
this is a group that's kind of there's been a lot of questions about obviously on the offensive side of the ball, but even on the with defense who's locking up the defensive end spots, is and kind of some bigger picture stuff about the defense. But I don't think we've really I'm not sure if it's been covered enough how much experience this secondary for Clemson is bringing back. This group went through a lot last season. They were very very much maligned, uh, but they're in a really really good place. And I think just from a numbers perspective as well, just the amount of bodies you have. You're bringing in a lot of you'll be bringing in a lot of freshmen, and you already have some guys on campus like Shelton Lewis. And Tink Kelly,
mm,
who's kind of playing both sides right now. But you kind of have more bodies there, and obviously you'll have Avion Terrell and Kylan Webb and guys like that coming in. soon as well. So just you're going to have more bodies in that secondary, especially that cornerback group.
Right.
And you have a lot of experience at safety, and I think you have a really good group of safeties that can all really play when they're 100%. So
Yeah, and you got a guy in Tyler Venables. I mean that dude, like really good safety. A guy that can come in and give you some snaps. So, like you say, I mean, there's a lot of depth there. There's a lot of experience, and we kind of picked our top guys, but at the end of the day, it's really comforting. This defense has gone through their lumps, especially last season in the secondary. And, unfortunately, due to injuries and things like that, some young guys had to grow up, trial by fire, get thrown into it. That's kind of what happened to a Sherrod Koval, or what happened to, what's his name? Sorry, his name's escaping me. Hold on. Toriano Pride.
Oh, okay.
Toriano Pride.
I was like,
right?
you thinking corner or safety?
No, I was thinking of
Toriano
corners.
Pride,
Jaden
Lucas.
Like guys like this got thrown into some really unfortunate situations last year, but they gained valuable reps and they gained valuable experience. So that's something that the Clemson defense is really going to be able to lean on this season. Especially, it's a long season. And you're gonna have to count on guys in certain times, that aren't your number one guy, that aren't your number two guy, but a guy that you can count on to come in and give you quality snaps, especially when you play some of these faster teams. So,
yep.
That's going to be a strength for this Clemson defense heading into the future. So,
yeah, you got to feel really good about where the secondary is. Despite the struggles they went through last year, just the amount of the amount of experience that you gained from last season, and the amount of new depth that you've brought in. You have a really good mixture of experience and youth and talent. So I'm really really interested to see how this group looks in the fall and what they look like on Saturday. But I think it's kind of been underappreciated how much they bring back. So. But yeah, that kind of that we've covered the offense and the defense.
Yeah.
Well, we got to talk about special teams. So let's start with kicker.
Okay. Yep.
First team kicker. Well, part of me wonders if the special teams unit is going to. I don't know if there's going to be a separate special teams unit for each team or not. That's something I'm interested. Or could you see, them, the special teams kick for both?
Both
teams.
I would almost think that the special teams, at least the kicker, would kick for both, but maybe not. Like I think if there's a true battle at who's going to be the kicker, I think they'll split them. But if a Robert Gunn is going to be that dude and he just needs reps, I think you'll see him kick for both.
Yeah.
So maybe that'll be a telling thing come the spring game. Is there a kicker kicking for both teams? And I think that'll tell us that that's the guy heading into the season. Or if we see two, I think maybe that'll tell us that there's, maybe a little bit of a battle when it comes to Clemson's place kicker come this 2023-2024 season, right?
Yep. So I tend to think that Robert Gunn is kind of the leader in that group as far as
he's kind of assumed to be the front runner, right? I mean, at least heading in.
And they seem to be working him that way. So
yeah.
I expect Robert Gunn to be the starting kicker when fall rolls around. But punter is a little bit more interesting. Obviously, you're bringing back Aiden Swanson, true freshman last season, had a let's say an up and down year. You also have, and now you have walk-on Jackson Smith pushing him
Yep.
in the spring. So, and it seems to be those two guys are kind of the guys that are looked at as the main competition for that starting punting job. So
Jack Smith is a big dude, by the way. Like,
he's
it's,
pretty,
this dude's 6'5". Like,
yeah, yeah.
Jesus,
He's built like a quarterback. Yeah. If you don't go out there and play some tight end, you
Bro,
don't line up.
I'm trying to tell you, if you don't get out there and block like as a tight end, bro, I'm trying to tell you, what are you doing? Why are you kicking the ball? What is going on right now?
Better yet, but if you don't get out on that court, and
Yeah, like what is it? Have you seen our basketball team?
yeah,
Have you seen our basketball team, Jack? Come on, man. We obviously need help.
we need you. Brad Brownell could use you. But yeah,
that's funny.
Jackson Smith, another guy, and he's, both punters have gotten mixed reviews from what I've read, and there's just some kind of
some up and down, some
yeah.
up and down, some some pressure gets to you every now and then. You look,
which makes me not feel very great, but obviously it's spring.
Makes me feel terrible because look, I was not exactly thrilled with Aiden Swanson last season. Like you go back and watch the video, people. I was critical of him last season.
Yeah.
I just think he was super inconsistent. He had, in my opinion, far more bad punts than he did good punts. And if he can't figure it out, let's hope that Jack Smith at 6'5", 200 and whatever pounds he is, can figure it out. I don't know, but our punting was wildly inconsistent last season. So that definitely has to be a focus of improvement for this team, because as much as, us as football fans don't exactly focus on special teams, it is a very, very, very crucial part of the game, and it can lose you games, especially the really close ones. So here's hoping to a better punting situation.
Absolutely. We can only hope. We took BT Potter and even Will Spires for granted sometimes, as far as special teams is concerned. You never know what you have till it's gone, and it's nice to have consistency. Even if it's not. I mean, BT Potter was great. Will Spires was. I think he was consistent. He wasn't a all-world punter or anything, but you kind of knew what you were going to get each time he punted. So the hope is this fall is that we're not going to have to do much punting, but that definitely is an area of concern for me right now.
That would be the hope.
Yeah.
But I got a feeling in the spring game we will see some punting.
Yeah.
We will see those guys get some work. So
let's just hope it doesn't look too bad.
Look here, man. I'm trying to tell you. I will come on here, and you know what? Nope. It's gonna be great. It's gonna be great. We'll see. Look, it's gonna be. Our special team situation was less than ideal last season. Let's just be honest. So that's definitely going to have to be a key improvement for this team. And hey, guys, if you're in here right now, I know we're talking about the Clemson spring game. I know we've been breaking it down for over an hour at this point. I see 31 people in the chat right now. Please go ahead and hit that like button for us. It really does help us out on these live videos. And if you are not a subscriber, please go ahead and hit that subscribe button because we enjoy all of you guys coming in and commenting and hanging out with us as we talk Clemson football, college football, and everything in between. And then also share the video as well. We do appreciate that. Do we recruit Australia for punters? I don't know, David. I don't know
We
if we do
should.
or not. We should. We absolutely should.
We don't, but we should. Look what Miami did. They brought like what's his name? The dude with all the tattoos that they had. Lou Headley. From Australia, but that man was tatted up. He probably had the best tattoo game in all of college football.
Yo, that
But
dude.
he that dude
He,
could that
he
dude
looked
could he could punt it 70 yards.
real deal, man.
Yeah.
Real deal. Clemson can't relate.
Yeah. But hey, I mean, that would be a really, I think it'd be a good idea because they have schools over there dedicated to punting, and you can get a really good punter to come overseas and play for you at least for a couple of years. But we are interested in kind of our own homegrown talent. So is what it is. So I kind of want to talk big picture now.
Okay.
And I saw, I think it was John Sarian. He kind of mentioned it as well. What do you think the attendance is going to look like? Because as we said, we anticipate that this is like probably the largest, or the most anticipated spring game in quite some time. Dabo Swinney himself has really made a call to action to Clemson fans to show up on Saturday. So, what do you think the attendance is going to look like?
Okay. I think Clemson spring game gets a fair amount of fans in it normally, right? It is one of those spring games that I think draws a good amount of fans. Clemson fans are very loyal. Anytime there's a game in Death Valley, there's quite a few people that show up. But I think this will be probably one of the biggest Clemson spring games maybe ever for the program history. One, the reason that I think that is a couple reasons, right? One, Dabo Swinney is pleading to the fans, right? He's telling the fans what he wants. He's telling the fans what this team needs, right? Two, I think we have a new offensive coordinator in Garrett Riley. Everybody's super excited about the new Clemson offense that'll be debuted, this coming Saturday, right? Although it's probably going to be limited. It doesn't matter. Everybody's going to be super excited. I just think it's going to be one of the biggest spring games around the nation this year. Some teams don't do a lot for the spring game. I think Clemson does a really good job of putting on kind of a production when it comes to the spring game. Because it's not just the spring game. So when you go to Clemson for a spring game, there's a lot of like ancillary things going on, right? There's a lot of other things and things that they draw you in with. And then the spring game's kind of like that culminating event, right? So they have things in the morning that are going on, and they have things for, bring your kids to this and get these signatures and get these posters and get these free t-shirts. And, they do a good job of marketing it, I think, from a university standpoint. So I really do expect that. Will we get to the 60,000 mark that Dabo wants? I don't know. What's the average for the Clemson spring game over the past, 5 seasons? I have no idea.
I don't know either. I'd have to do the research on that. I mean, I've been to, I didn't go to last year's, but I've been to the past few before that. But it was pretty. I mean, they've all been pretty sizable. So much so that every single season it's a bidding. It's a whole just blow up war between Clemson fans and South Carolina fans about who had more at their spring game and who had the higher attendance. So hopefully that'll be a motivating factor as well. But and it's like, Clemson reported that this many people showed up, and then there'll be screenshots and pictures of the stadium before kickoff, and And it's like, oh, that doesn't look like 50,000. Oh no, that doesn't look like 50,000. Your school's lying, and they didn't report those numbers right. So that's always a fun time as well. So, but I do think that this is going to be a pretty highly attended spring game, and probably higher than it's been in a while, just because of um, just kind of the changes. Obviously, Garrett Riley brings a lot of excitement. I mean, hell, they introduced him at one of Clemson's basketball games like he was the new head coach.
Bro, I'm trying to tell you, look,
So,
like the excitement around Clemson is for real.
yeah,
When it comes to Garrett Riley, I mean, they just did like a surprise, kind of deal for him to get his Broyles Award presented to him.
yep,
So, like, Clemson is all bought in on Garrett Riley, and that's one of the reasons. So, it's Garrett Riley being the new OC. It's Cade Klubnik taking over as quarterback full time. He's the guy. And it's Dabo Swinney saying, hey, Clemson fans, we need you to show up and show out. And I think those three things are a recipe for a really big crowd come 1 p.m. On Saturday when the spring game kicks off. And, I mean, Dabo's super entertaining when it comes to the spring games.
yeah,
He's ESPN kind of does this thing where they bring the reporters down on the field and they're kind of talking to them. And that kind of started, quite a few years ago. But, Dabo Swinney's just really good at that. He's just a good talker. He's a guy that can, just take over a broadcast, and that's kind of what he does for the spring game. So I think this will be a huge spring game when it comes to attendance.
all right. Speaking of the broadcast, I've got a bone to pick.
Okay,
With
let's talk
some
about
people at a certain 4-letter network.
Yeah, I can't imagine what that network would be, but continue.
So for those of you that don't know, what would you guess? Where would you guess? What TV channel would you guess that the Clemson spring game will be airing on? ESPN, ESPN2,
ESPN
ESPN3,
News,
ESPN News,
ESPN News,
ESPN Ocho, the ESPN the Ocho. That's
the Ocho.
The Ocho. Y'all, I hope y'all get that reference. Great movie. Hilarious.
I like it. That's good.
But or is it the ACC network? Where
that would almost make sense, right? The ACC.
network? That would make sense.
The most premier team for the ACC would be aired on the ACC network. Maybe. No. Okay.
Well, I wouldn't blame you for thinking that.
We've worked our way quite down the line, ending with the ACC network. No offense, ACC network, but you're kind of the bottom of the totem pole there.
Well, it's you wouldn't be completely wrong for thinking that, but the Clemson spring game will not be airing on the main ACC network. It's going to be aired on the ACC Network Extra channel. And when you look at the schedule, Clemson is not the only team that's going to be playing its spring game on the ACC Network Extra. In fact, every single team, ACC team that has a spring game on Saturday is going to be airing on ACC Network Extra, except for one program. Do you want to guess which program that is? Is it maybe another big brand in the conference?
FSU? Is FSU playing on the ACC network?
No.
Oh, dang.
Nope, they're on the ACC Network Extra too.
Oh, dang.
Is it Miami?
That'd be a good option. They got a big fan base.
That would make sense.
They got a big
But
fan
no,
base. No,
no.
not them either.
Is it North Carolina?
Oh, another big player in the ACC. Mac Brown,
No.
Drake May.
Nope.
No. Okay.
But we're getting warmer.
We're getting warmer.
I guess technically colder if you're talking geography.
It's true. We are getting colder. Absolutely.
But the one program, the one ACC program that has a spring game on Saturday is none other than the Virginia Cavaliers. And the best part is, Clemson's spring game is at 1 p.m. on Saturday.
Okay.
You know what the ACC network is going to be airing instead? A women's lacrosse game.
A women's lacrosse game.
Yes.
Lacrosse.
Yes.
Now, nothing against lacrosse.
Nothing against women's lax. I mean, Clemson just added a women's lax program, and they're pretty good, pretty fun to watch.
Look, nothing against women's sports in general,
yeah,
or lacrosse in general. But are you telling me that the ACC network thinks that the ratings for a lacrosse game are going to be better than their flagship program for the conference in football? Because that would be the only reason to make that decision, right? Obviously, the games that you premiere should be based off of viewership, right? You would think.
You would think
like, oh, the more viewers that watch, the more money we get off of ad revenue. Therefore, whatever the most popular thing is, we're probably going to put it on TV.
And
good job, ESPN. Good job, ACC Network. You guys are officially a bunch of morons.
Yeah. And the worst
this is why your ratings suck. We don't know that they suck yet because you're such a new TV program or a TV network that you don't have to report your ratings yet. But when they come out, I bet you they're complete garbage.
They're not good. You can tell
they're not good.
I mean, the media deal that this conference is in, it just, for a conference that has, especially these past couple of seasons, has been really, really vocal about finding new ways to create revenue and finding and trying to do better to put the revenue sports first, as especially football.
Because that's
trying to catch up in that avenue. They sure do not like to feature the programs in this conference that actually care and invest and draw viewers to football.
That bring the most money to the conference, that supports all the other stuff that happens within the conference.
Yeah,
like
exactly.
Clemson, like an FSU, like a Miami. I don't know, the big brands of the conference that bring in the money, that have the massive fan bases, that have the national reach, that could bring more people, more eyes to your conference. Yeah, no, of course not.
Nope. Instead, you've relegated your biggest money makers to the ACC Network Extra, which you have to. The only way to access is to get the ESPN app.
Yeah, you got to go to the ESPN app, and you got to go to the little plus symbol on the bottom of the ESPN app. You want to know why I know this, guys? Because that's where I watch softball games.
Same.
That's where I watch softball games. And nothing against college softball. I love college softball. Shout out Clemson college softball, right? Great team. However, that's not where the big brands in college football in the ACC, when you look out against the landscape of college football right now and you see the things that are happening and how the ACC is consistently falling behind both revenue, TV deals, and the rest of it, And then you make decisions like this, and you're just looking back like this is more ammunition for a Florida State, for a Miami, for a Clemson, for the big brands of the ACC to be like, these people have no clue what they're doing. Look at them. They have no clue what they're doing. Why are we still in this conference? Like that's not a way to inspire confidence in the leadership of the conference and the direction that it's going. And I know the conference doesn't make these decisions necessarily, but it's just an example of kind of where this conference is and the lack of leadership that is going on in the ACC. Because if the president, if the commissioner of the ACC didn't make a call because of this, then he's not doing his job. Because I would have been on the phone with ESPN and the ACC network and be like, didn't we sign this deal for a reason?
Oh, no. Jim Phillips is all cushy. He just signed an extension. So, you know.
Yeah, of course.
For what? I don't know. The dude's been commissioner for 5 minutes, hasn't done a damn thing, but he's
signed an extension for literally doing nothing for the conference. You know, the SEC gets stronger, the Big Ten gets stronger, and the ACC is sitting out here, you know, holding a bag full of, you know, rotten fruit that is a TV deal that we sign for 10 years. Who signs a TV deal for 10 years? You know, you just
longer than that. I mean, from the time it was signed, 2014 to 20. That's 20. That's over that's two decades.
2 decades. Sorry, 20 years. Who signs a 20-year TV deal? Who does that? Knowing how much you saw the market change before you had an ACC network, and then you choose to sign a 20-year deal to lock it in. I mean, whatever, man. Look. So done with the ACC. They are run by a bunch of brainless people. They really are. Like, there's no forward thinking when it comes to the ACC.
And listen, the ACC network, you know, by itself has been a really subpar product since it's been in existence anyway. I mean,
of course.
They just really I can't watch it for longer than like 5 minutes. It's a really, really amateur production. There's you know, I enjoyed Mark Packer and you know,
Mark Packer's good,
but when you know he's when Packer and Durham was going, that was about the only thing I could watch on there. And now since that's over, I can't even watch it. So I'm just the show isn't about complaining about the TV networks, but this is just it's just frustrating as if you're a fan of a team in a conference that is clearly falling behind monetarily, viewership wise, competitiveness on the field, and you're hearing one thing from the leadership saying, okay, we need to do better. We're going to try and do better. But then, decisions like this and things
they don't do it. Right.
Yeah.
It's like decisions like this are just contrary to that rhetoric. Like, we're gonna make decisions that put the conference first and put the brands, the big brands first, and yada yada yada. And then they make decisions like this, and you're like, what are you even talking about? Like, what are we even doing? Angel Moss,
if you don't have cable, I'm sorry, if you have cable, I don't think you can get it unless
you. If you have cable, you can get it. You have to download the ESPN app,
right?
And then you have to log in with your cable provider in order to watch the spring game, or to watch any game that matter through the ESPN app. It's not just our spring game, but other games are on there too as well. You log in with your cable provider, and then you can watch things on the ESPN app and all their extra BS networks that the football programs have obviously been relegated to.
Yeah.
The money makers for the conference, we're relegated to a freaking ESPN app. While we're playing badminton on the ACC network. I mean, get out of here, dude. Like, what are we doing? No
Hey,
one wants to
I
watch
played a
that.
little badminton in high school. It's kind of fun. Hey, I mean, it's kind of fun. It's kind of
Okay,
fun.
all right. You're right. I'm sorry, all the badminton players out there.
Yeah,
My bad.
I played
Yeah,
for like
it's just
PE and stuff. I didn't actually
yeah,
play,
of
but
course. Yeah, we all did, right?
yeah.
uh, but you can still watch the game. Angel Moss, yeah.
Yeah, you just got to download the ESPN app and log in with your cable provider. And so,
yeah. So WB2DX makes a good point. He says therein lies the way out for Clemson. The ACC has not lived up to their end of the contract. I agree. Look, Florida State, Clemson, Miami, they need to start getting on this. Maybe they need to hire the same lawyer pool and pool some money together and hire a big, lawyer organization to be like, hey, they are not acting in our best interest. They are not putting us in the best position to succeed, and we need out of this. I think that is the only way out, other than massive amounts of money that is not going to happen. Because when you look at it, when you look at the TV right deal, when you look at the contract, it's an amount of money that, I know college football throws around these figures like they're nothing, but those figures are something serious. So FSU, Clemson, Miami, North Carolina, Virginia Tech, to the Big Ten.
that's a lot. That's a lot of teams. I don't think the Big Ten is looking to expand that much.
Yeah, I don't think they want that many teams, but there could be some ACC teams go to the Big Ten. There could be some ACC teams to go to the SEC. All these conferences could eventually go away, and it could be something else. Who knows where college football is going? College football has changed so much in the past 5 to 10 years that it's changed so rapidly that who knows what it looks like 5 years from now.
Yeah.
Because if you would have told us 5 years ago that college football looks like it looks now,
Laughed in your face.
I mean, what, NIL and the transfer portal are what, maybe 5 years old?
Well, the transfer portal is like 5 years old. NIL
the transfer portal is 5
like
years old. The NIL was what, 2021? It's like 2 years old.
Yeah, and technically the transfer portal has always been a thing for a long time. But the one-time transfer rule,
without penalty.
Yeah,
but the NIL is fairly new. It's like 2 years old, right? And it's essentially a pay for play at this point.
Actually, I think the one-time transfer rule in I feel like that was the same offseason, actually. So I think they're both only like a few years old. So
might have been a couple years old. Who knows?
I think the 2020 offseason.
College football has changed so rapidly, and we essentially, we all talked for a long time in college football, and all of us as college football fans are like, oh, they won that, they're cheating. They got that recruit because they're cheating. They paid them. They gave him a bag, right? I mean, it's literally the same thing in college football now. It's just all legal. Like, pay for play is what college football is right now.
It's becoming that way. That's for sure.
I mean, it's what it is. It's pay for play. You could pay a player any amount of money to come play for your team. The only catch is they don't have to stay. Yeah. They can leave every offseason if they want to, right? Yep. So it's really difficult in college football. You're constantly recruiting high school players. You're recruiting your own roster. You're recruiting the transfer portal. Wow. You imagine being a college football coach right now?
I couldn't.
I know they make a ton of money, but
yeah, you can't feel too bad for them, but it's still
you can't feel super bad for them, but it is a tough job.
Yeah,
and it is, as much money as they make, it is a temporary job, especially if you don't succeed, right?
Yeah.
And in this day and age, I think there's going to be a lot more people not succeeding than are. because you could lose key players every single year due to the transfer portal. It's not just building a team year by year. You got to recruit your own players. You can't just focus on high school players or transfer portal players, right? You gotta recruit your own roster. You gotta worry about these NIL collectives and who we're giving money to and how we're doing this, and it's a tough
Wild
gig,
Wild West
man.
right now.
It's the wild wild west, man. Yeah, yeah. Jason says, why was SMU mid all those years then?
Well, they weren't mid all those years. They were pretty good
Hey,
for a good time in the
hey,
80s.
they got
Until they got hit with that probation,
yeah, until they got hit with
that death penalty.
the death penalty, right?
Yeah.
SMU's out here like, bruh, that's what we were doing. Everybody's doing it now. Like, what is the problem? we were just doing what everybody else was doing, right? So,
but yeah, that was a.
Jason
great.
says college football is becoming the NFL. What do you think?
But that's the problem. It wouldn't be the problem if that it's becoming the NFL because the NFL, what separates it is the NFL. You have contracts, you have collective bargaining, you have all of these things and rules and structures put in place to where it's a fair and equitable system where player movement is not completely is not like totally restricted, but it's restricted enough to where it's like guys aren't just moving back freely between teams and just going all over the place.
Right.
And there's a time, there's a calendar for when things are allowed to be done, signing and free agency, all of that. None of that, almost none of that exists in college football. So you basically have, the professionalization of collegiate athletics, but without all the rules put in place to make it a relatively fair and equitable system and like a true professional model. So it's
I think
it's a
college
lot.
football is kind of heading towards that, and kind of tell me what you think about it. We've heard coaches talk, speak out about it. We heard a Dabo Sweeney have a really good interview, this past off season, talking about kind of college football and all the stuff and how they want to see changes and more structure and how maybe college football moves to something completely different than we think it is right now. Maybe the top kind of separate themselves into a separate league with possibly a college football commissioner or something like that. Do you see something like that happening? Or, not that we can predict anything, but we can speculate because, it's fun to do. What is college football going to become? We always, like, a lot of people throw out, especially with the NIL deals and stuff like that, it is essentially a pay-for-play type of league. It is the Wild Wild West. It is super unsustainable, especially with the transfer portal. Like, the amount of play, like, I don't think people understand the amount of players that enter the transfer portal versus the amount of players that get picked up out of the transfer portal is a Grand Canyon of a difference, right? So all of these players that gave up a scholarship to enter the transfer portal now have nowhere to go, right? So you would think there would be at some point some sort of self-correcting thing that happens. Do you think that ever happens with both the transfer portal and the NIL, which is kind of a pay for play at this point? Or, what's going to happen?
Yeah, no, I don't think there's any way to, at least under the current NCAA model and everything that is currently in place. I don't expect any true measures to be put in place. I think you mentioned it earlier. And I think what's probably going to happen, especially considering the some of the recent court cases between the NCAA and the Supreme Court, and kind of their amateur model and how it, and whether it's ethical or not. Well, it's been getting pretty destroyed in court in recently. So part of me thinks that eventually you're going to see a section of the FBS, probably especially like Power Five, whatever, some combination of teams from the Power Five are going to split off from the NCAA and create their own organization and create their own rule structure. And I think and kind of do it that way. And then maybe you see some regulations of player movement and player compensation, but you're not going to get rid of those things, and I don't think you should. But you should. But there'll be some guardrails, and there will be some clarity about what's allowed, what isn't, all of that. So I think that's kind of the direction this is going. But again, I have no idea. I'm not obviously an insider. I don't know anything about truly about what it's going to look like moving forward. But I feel like that's kind of the direction I could see it going, where you just see a group of Division I split off from the NCAA, create their own college football structure, and go from there. And the teams that are left behind, they'll still be under their own rules and the NCAA's rules and stuff. But I just don't. I don't see any way under the way things are currently set up where there's going to be much to be done as far as regulation. So, but we'll see. We'll see. I have no idea in reality.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with you.
But speaking of rule changes, and I kind of want to, I guess we can close it off on that. We'll take some questions as well.
Yep.
Did you see this new rule change that just happened, that recruits are now allowed to get unlimited official visits?
No, I have not heard of this at all.
Yeah, this was just announced today, I believe. That on starting June 1st, all recruits, high school recruits, are
officially now. Yeah.
Yeah. So
June 1st. Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, a lot of kids in this cycle are definitely going to take advantage of that rule. So no more of the 5 official visits. And you got to choose which one, and they can only be to one. You can only do one visit per school. And you don't have to. You don't have to, restrict yourself anymore. You've got an unlimited official visit. It's still one. I think it's still one visit per school, but now players can take as many as they want to as many different schools as they want. So
really,
yep,
that's interesting.
Pretty big.
Like big. Official visits.
Yeah, official visits. So you can take as many as you want. Still one per school, but you
one
can take
per
as many
school. But if as many schools as you want to go do, as many schools are willing to give you an official visit, you can go to. Interesting.
I think it's kind of just a it's a ploy in some ways by the NCAA to kind of look like they're still pro player, and that their model is still viable legally, because they know they are not winning in court right now.
Right.
So I'm kind of it's a huge thing. It's a game changer for a lot of as far as recruiting goes. But it's so we'll
it's getting
we'll see how it looks.
It's getting more and more complicated when it comes to recruiting and NIL and transfer portal. I mean, college football is quite possibly one of the most complicated sports to manage when it comes to being a head coach and being a staff in college football right now. And I mentioned to you earlier when we were on the phone before the show, and I talked about an article that I read on Clemson 247 about the Baylor athletic director, I think it was, that talked about how he could see a mass exodus. According to him, he could see a mass exodus of elite college football coaches from coaching, whether that be they just have made enough money and the job has gotten, a little too crazy and they just choose to retire because they've saved up enough money, or they choose to make the leap to the NFL, or, whatever the case may be. But he could see an exodus of college football coaches, elite college football coaches, because of the landscape of college football and what has become with the transfer portal. We talked about you have to recruit your own roster. You have to recruit high school players. You have to recruit the transfer portal. It's a 24/7, 365 job that you never truly get a break with. So, I don't know if we ever see that, but you would think there has to be some sort of self-correction in college football. Dabo's talked about it. Nick Saban's talked about it. Kirby Smart's talked about it. A lot of the elite college football coaches have talked about how, this version of college football is unsustainable for a lot of programs, right? The NIL thing is unsustainable. We talked about the transfer portal being unsustainable just from the standpoint that a lot of guys get left out. And it's not something that's talked about in college football a lot. But these dudes just hang out in the transfer portal and they just never get picked up. And then they don't have a place to play college football anymore. And I think that's something that maybe doesn't get talked about enough. And I don't think the NCAA is the answer. I think it's more, it'll probably be more of a break off of the top teams in college football, whether that be the top 30, 40, 50, 60, whatever teams break off and make a league. And maybe there's a commissioner and then it kind of restructures from there. I don't really know what the future of college football looks like because, as we talked about, it's changed so quickly in the last 5 years. But I think there's definitely more changes to come. And I think it's going to look a lot different 5 years from now than it looks right now. There has to be something to change in college football. The current model right now, if you take the college football coaches out there that are willing to speak out about it and what they say it's unsustainable. And I believe them because they know the inner workings better than any of us.
100%. And yeah, it's going to be really, really fascinating to watch because this is a time in college football that's just been unprecedented by really anything else. There's been some landmark decisions in college football, from, the integration of college sports to, TV deals and all of that and conferences and, conference realignment and all of that has led up to NIL, the transfer portal, and all of these things that are all of these really game-changing facets that have been introduced in just the past couple of years. And you're just kind of seeing the exponential growth in the sport. And so there's no telling what it's going to look like in a few years. So going to be interesting. But
it'll be interesting. I'll be here regardless because as you know, me, you, and the 19 people watching us right now are absolute degenerate college football fans. You know why? Because we're talking about college football here in April.
Yeah. At 11 o'clock at night.
At 11 o'clock at night.
Eastern time.
And we absolutely love college football. So we'll continue to watch it regardless. And we'll see where it goes. It is what it is. And it's definitely going to be interesting. But I think there are some real issues in college football right now. Mark Rogers, the voice of college football, says, "Don't forget me." Absolutely, Mark. We know you're an absolute degenerate like the rest of us. You literally spend your life talking about college football. And shout out to you. Thank you for giving us this platform, me and Jordan both, on the Voice of College Football Clemson channel to chop it up here. We really do appreciate it. And it has not been lost on us the privilege that we have here. So
Absolutely.
thank you, Mark. Everybody in the comments, shout out Mark. Go visit the Voice of College Football main channel. Check out his merch. Buy a coffee mug. Buy a T-shirt. Buy a sweatshirt. Buy something. Okay? Support the Voice of College Football Clemson channel because he is the guy that makes this channel happen and so many other channels happen. Okay? I don't think he gets enough credit for that. I don't think he gets enough credit for all of the contributors that he brings along and gives us an opportunity to talk about our individual teams. So you guys give some love to the Voice of College Football in Mark Rogers.
Yeah, make sure if any Mark is an Ohio State fan. Ohio State they've trademarked the. I think if anyone is deserving of that trademark, it's Mark. So Mark, you should totally look into that. See if you can.
You should trade.
Maybe you can sue. I don't know.
I don't know if Ohio State deserves it, but Mark Rogers definitely deserves it.
Yeah, 100%.
But yeah. Mark knows how we feel about Ohio State.
Oh man.
All in good fun. All in good fun.
Absolutely.
We love you, Mark. We do.
All right, let's take a couple of questions and then
you guys get into the
mark.
Yeah, you guys get into the chat. We have now hit the 2-hour mark. That's kind of me and Jordan's cutoff. So if you guys got any questions for me and Jordan, if you guys got any comments about the spring game, any things that you want us to talk about before we hop off of here, we will give you a couple minutes, and then we are going to pop off of here and get on with the night, which will include sleeping and moving on with our normal lives tomorrow.
All right. I'm gonna scroll back a little bit just see what kind of questions people put.
Yeah.
Coots or Tigers in the 2023 Palmetto Bowl, WP2DXX. Man, you know the answer to that question.
You already know, brother. Hey, look here. We're gonna roll. We are going to roll. No doubt about it.
Tigers by 100.
Yeah, Tigers by 1,000,000.
Yeah. I was being conservative.
Will Shipley's gonna run for 300 yards.
Yeah. He should have ran for 300 yards. He was on pace, not far off from the 300 yards, like on pace after that first half.
That's what I'm saying, man. They just had to keep running them, but no.
And then the second half happened.
Yeah, the second half definitely did happen. WB2DX says, y'all going to the spring game. Jordan is definitely going to the spring game. I am still trying to make that happen. I do not know. And again, we're planning to tentatively do something live following the spring game. So stay tuned for that. Turn on the bell so you get notifications.
Make sure it's set to all, not personalized. Make sure it's set to all.
Make sure it's set to all because we probably will do some sort of live show after the spring game just to kind of talk about it. Whether me and Jordan both go or just Jordan goes, we'll probably do something. So, guys, be on the lookout. Stay tuned to the Voice of College Football Clemson channel. The spring game, Jason, the Clemson spring game is this Saturday at 1 p.m. This Saturday at 1 p.m.
And ACC Network Extra.
So you got to log into the ESPN app. Use your cable provider or whatever live TV streaming service provider you got to stream the game. So, stay tuned. We'll do something. We will do something. We'll figure it out for you guys. Just stay tuned. We don't have it nailed down quite yet, unfortunately. OSU sucks.
Oh man, we started an OSU.
Oh yeah, hey, we did it. We did it. Sorry, Mark. I know Mark's still. watching. We're sorry. You know the Clemson Ohio State thing. It is what it is.
All right.
All right. I think that's it, right, Jordan?
Yep. I,
See
I
any other? I don't see any other questions being asked to us. I don't see any other topics being brought up. Can we ditch the ACC? Not currently.
no.
Not currently. Maybe one day.
Maybe. Or maybe in a perfect world, the ACC gets their
Or
act
maybe,
together.
yeah. Maybe the ACC wakes up. I don't know, falls and bumps their head, and knocks some sense into them. I don't know. That'd be great. I would love for the ACC to get their act together. Oh, like Mike says, score prediction. I'm
Ooh,
assuming
that's
he's the spring game score
yeah,
prediction. So we got orange versus white,
yeah,
and he wants a score prediction.
man. Well,
Ooh,
if the past couple of Clemson spring games have been any indication, uh, it's probably going to be a tight game, and especially since the teams are more or less even. Um, but it is a different format, so I'm going to go. The past couple have been really like both teams scored in like the teens, low scoring, kind of a lot of punts.
yeah,
Um, I still think there's going to be quite a few punts in this game, but hopefully there's a little bit more functionality in the offense. Things don't look as clunky procedurally. That's the kind of stuff I'm looking for in this game. Uh, so I'm going to go. I think the orange team has Cade Klubnik. It has the starting offense, so I'm gonna lean that direction. Is that Nick Eason's team or Coach CJ Spiller's team?
I think that's Eason's team.
Okay. Uh, so I'm gonna go the orange team, 24, white team, 21.
Okay, 24-21. I like it. Maybe our kicker gets to get a game-winning field goal there. I will go. I'll go. Let's see. I'll go orange as well because of the same reasons. Cade Klubnik, right? And the number one offense. I will go 28-21. Orange. 28-21 orange.
So we're
That's what I'll go.
kind of in the same ballpark. We
Same
think both.
ballpark.
We're hoping both teams. I hope both teams get into the 20s.
I hope
Um,
so.
yeah.
I hope so.
But I hope we see some plays from the defense as well.
Yeah. That's
Yeah.
why I didn't go, any higher than that. 28-21. I hope it's 21-21 and Cade kind of gets a late score
Yeah.
or something like that. I hope it's a good game. I hope it's competitive. We talked about in the beginning about how it's kind of been split up. One team offense versus first team defense, second team offense versus second team defense. So I hope it's super competitive. I hope we don't see any, like, I know the quarterbacks are going to be in purple jerseys and they're not going to be able to hit, but I be able to be hit or tackled or run for that matter, really. But I hope it's not a lot of quick whistles when it comes to the quarterback. I hope they're allowed to kind of extend a play and make a throw. So that would be my hope, that they let them play a little bit. Obviously, we don't want our quarterbacks getting hit in the spring for no reason, but
No.
I hope the whistle is not so quick.
Yeah. Which tends to be the case in these spring games.
Yeah. Dabo, and our defensive line just screams that whistle should be blown. So,
yeah.
I know that's a thing as well. If you guys are well versed on the spring game,
Dabo does not hesitate with that whistle.
No, he will give that defensive line a sack in a second.
Yeah.
But hopefully we let them play a little bit. Get a little bit of dynamic throws, extension of plays in there. So
can't wait for that Hunter Helms 60-yard bomb for a touchdown. That'll be great.
That's our starting quarterback, right?
Yeah.
Hunter Helms still gamble. That's who's going to play QB for the white team. That's a second team quarterback.
I think so. Yeah, I mean we think so. He's taken the second team reps all spring. That's who we expect. Chris Vizina will definitely play as well, but
yeah, he's third string though,
yeah,
so
probably
he'll get some reps. But
and Paul
he's
Tyson is out with a thumb injury, so
right. So, they passing out creamsicles at the game? I don't know, maybe.
I wish that'd be a cool tradition. It would be a
I don't
good.
know, but like Tennessee's more of a creamsicle color
That's true. Our
than
orange
Clemson. Our
isn't really
orange is not really creamsicle.
Yeah.
Steel Gamble, yes, Hunter Helms is second string right now.
Yeah.
He is above Chris Vizina at the current
At least he's
moment.
been taking the second string rep, the second team reps. Will
Look,
that be the
straight,
same in the fall? I don't know, but
that's straight from the coaches.
yeah.
Hunter Helms has apparently had his best spring since he's been at Clemson. So, shout out to him. WB2DX says, is Mark seriously a Yuck Eye fan? He is, but
Yes.
Don't give Mark a hard time. He is the most level-headed and fair Buckeye fan on planet Earth. Okay? Don't lump him in.
He's so fair. He gets accused of Michigan bias by people that don't know he's an Ohio State fan.
He's such a fair Ohio State fan that I think his Michigan following is bigger than his Ohio State following. Okay, so
one could argue
that should tell you something. And he's not one that he's not the Ohio State fan that cries about the refs 24/7. Okay,
no.
He tries to keep it, straight down the line, especially when he's speaking about college football in general. He keeps it, with as little bias as possible. Obviously, we all have our bias. We wouldn't be here on YouTube talking about college football if we didn't care about a certain team in general.
Yeah.
So, But yeah.
All right. I think that's a good place to wrap it up.
Yeah.
I guess thank you guys for tuning in tonight. We tend to go really long on these shows, so thank you guys to the 17 people that are still sticking around and hearing us idiots talk for a long time. But we really appreciate it. And should be a really good weekend. Spring game is always a fun time. Hope to see. I don't know how many of you in the chat are going to be there, but I will certainly be there, and should be a good time. And we'll be there to break it down for you guys once it's over. And so make sure you guys hit that like button if you haven't already. Check out the description, all those links. We talked about it ad nauseum already. That's pretty much it for me. Tiger Paul Craven, you're taking my role now. You're going to close us out tonight.
There you go, man. So. Will do. Hey, thank you guys for showing up and showing out tonight. Thank you for all of the comments. Thank you for the likes. We really do appreciate it. This would not be a show without you guys. So we really appreciate all of you Clemson fans that showed out. I saw a Florida State fan in the chat tonight. There's Michigan fans in the chat tonight. There's all sorts of fan bases. We appreciate you guys coming out. We love that we have more than just Clemson fans here tonight and in pretty much every one of our live shows. So thank you so much for coming out. We look forward to seeing you again. Look out this Saturday. We will probably do some sort of post-game, post-spring live. Okay? So be on the lookout. Hit that subscribe button. Turn your notifications on. Turn it on to all so that you get the notification when we go live this Saturday after the spring game. Okay? But we will see you in the post-spring game live. And until next time, I'm Tiger Paul Craven. He's Jordan Bowman.
I'm Jordan Bowman. And we will see you guys next time.
Thanks, guys.
Later.